before, and then he moved into recruiting. So what we'll do is, we have some questions which we got from you guys, and we have collected about 10 questions which we'll obviously be answering. And apart from that, feel free to start writing your questions on the chat. For the first 10-15 minutes, we'll take the questions from the slides, and then I'll start picking up, curating those questions from the chat, and I'll ask Sukant, right? Feel free to ask anything on how to apply for PM roles, what to do while you're applying for PM roles, right? So I'll just share the screen. And I'll go to the present mode, right? So hi guys. So Sukant, let's start off with the first question. What should be the key points to focus on while preparing a product resume? Some resume do's and don'ts to keep in mind.
Sure. First of all, thanks for the kind introduction you did. Quite flattering, but I definitely don't know more than product managers. All right. So I see a lot of resumes for product managers, for APMs, for product analysts. Uh, the biggest problem with the resumes that I get, they are not structured like a product. They are all structured like the normal format that you keep getting and you keep seeing in normal circumstances. People using tools to make uh, the resumes. They are not making them themselves. The ones I get which are truly unique are actually the people I really like talking to, because they have crafted their resumes by themselves. They've structured it, their formatting, everything is unique. It's not so. One thing that you definitely should take care of is not to use a tool if you can avoid it. You should use it to just to save time, but don't use tools like OpenCV and Enhanced CV. A lot of these tools which quickly help you make a resume, but not as a product person. Um, some there are of course typos that you should definitely avoid. These are like just basic things that you should take care of. Uh, for a product person, you will be talking to so many people in your role, that communication is really important. So not just how you're speaking in the interview, but how you're writing in the resume. Also, the structure, the formatting of the resume should be very easy to understand for a recruiter like me. Uh, Understanding, and since a lot of the product manager's role is subjective, the text in the resume is also very um, word and sentence heavy instead of having just like skill words as they are in engineering. So the structure of the resume, what you write should be very to the point. I should be able to immediately get what was the role, what did you do, and it should be clear like in 20 seconds when I have scrolled through a resume, what what the person did, whether their role was in B2C side, whether it was on the B2B side. Include one line of the company that you work for, explaining their business just in one line, uh, and one line of your part in that company's product, which side of the product that you're working on. So let's say if you're working in internal products, you explain in just one line working on the internal sales product of something which helped the business teams do this, or whether you worked on the B2C side. So it's very important that you mention where you are fitting in the company's work. uh, Besides that, you should then just include the side of the product that you have worked on. So if you are more into design side, the user side, mention the number of screens that you have worked on. If your work is more UI UX heavy, uh, how much of those screens are live in the product. If you worked on the growth side, then mention metrics. Don't be like, I did this which increased the traction of the product, but you should definitely mention the numbers. I made 10 changes which led to 50% increase in organic traffic and 30% in paid traffic or whatever. But do mention numbers. Numbers are so important. I very rarely say it. It's very surprising. Metrics is something that a lot of product managers work on, whether it's internal, whether it's external. you should mention metrics, you should mention numbers and data of your impact. And it's a must that you track it in your work as well. Um, you can also talk about some of the revenue impacts as well, not just maybe traction. If you have worked on the revenue side, then you can uh, work on, you can mention that. Then, then as I said, there should be a very clear understanding of which side, what was the, what are the product that you worked on. So whether it was a B2C, B2B, SaaS product, internal product. It's very hard to measure the impact of an internal product, but you should mention all of these things so that I can judge if I am looking for a B2C person for Unacademy. I might not look at a person whose work is very B2B heavy for the role I'm hiring for. But I will still appreciate that person's resume, that I can immediately clearly understand what he or she is trying to do and convey, and I will remember the resume for a role that I might have in the future. So it's very important that your communication is very clear. You should also mention whether the product you worked on, whether you worked on it from scratch or you are just taking it further, you're just growing it. It was already clear. So if you have worked on it from scratch, you should definitely mention it. It's a big plus. You should also mention the type of product that you worked on. So it could be a web app, it could be a mobile, Android or iOS. Do mention that as well, because then many recruiters can easily understand where you fit and whether you fit the uh, in the role as well. You can mention the adoption of your product. So let's say there's a so I might not know. I know that OYO Life is a big product, but I don't know how many people use it. So if you worked on OYO Life's product, mention that OYO Life actually has 20 million users or 10 million users, and so I can immediately judge the scale of your efforts in the product. One part where many product managers also disagree with me here, where I say that P&L is something some product managers do get. They get to handle profit and loss of the product. Uh, if you are handling it, do mention it. It is an added responsibility of the role. Uh, but if you're not, it's fine. It's not a plus or minus. But if you are, do mention the profit and loss, how much of the P&L you were handling, and what was the impact of your role. Like you grew that P&L by 10% or 20%.
So I like even when I am looking at resumes, what I see is if you have quantified your work experience or not, right? A lot of the times, if you are when you are very early in your career, what I also tend to do and what a lot of candidates tend to do is they just write their job description. Like I work with the UX UI, मैंने UX UI के साथ काम किया, dev के साथ काम किया. But I want to know what was your DAU which you reached, or what was the MAU
Right.
which you reached, or what was the retention which you solved. So always try to quantify that. Just speaks that you know your numbers, you know metrics,
Right.
and it comes across that hey, you are knowledgeable, right?
Right.
Sukant, let's move to the next question, right?
Right.
Let's take one question from the audience, and I think this is related to one of the questions which you have written also. Arshi has asked which post graduation would help the most for a PM job, and I think this is related to one of the questions which we had, that as an MBA with no student, how can I break into product domain? So what kind of post-graduation degrees or having it or not having it will help to get into PM?
All right. So I feel product is a very experiential role. It it's not really, we don't really have a degree for it so far. There are degrees, Bachelor of Design, which is offered by some IITs, not all of them. Uh, and then there are some nano degrees that are there by Audacity, which many product managers do, just to get a good sense of it, or people trying to transition into it. They do offer good insight, and they do offer a good understanding of what's a product oriented approach to solving. But you actually don't need a degree or a course. You can actually do all the research by yourself, understand the product, why it matters, and you can totally go your own way. You don't actually need a degree to, because there's a formalization for this
Correct, correct.
part.
I think, yeah, yeah. I like a good way is build side projects. If you
Yeah,
let's say so for example, like if even if you were to go for a degree, then go for a target school which where companies actually come, right? Like for in
like
Google,
PM school.
like, yeah, PM school is an option. ISB is one good option, right?
Right.
Google actually goes to ISB to hire. So if you really want to get into product, go into ISB then, right? Or let's say there are other options as well. But yeah, uh, what could we do alongside an MBA to prepare myself for PM roles? Again, as I said, build a side project, right? Uh, write about product. That's one thing which I think a lot of recruiters look for, right, Sukant?
Yes, yes. So if you're, there are a lot of people who write about products. They will just share their thoughts about it, and it's a very good sounding board. You will actually get to hear very mature opinions from other people who have been involved in product. You will see more perspectives from them. It's very important. You can use that as a sounding board, as a tool to keep learning from others. Also builds network as well.
Correct. So this was asked by Abhishek. So Abhishek, good thing is a lot of so I think so. I was having a word with Sukant the other day, and he mentioned that a lot of the times, if you do not have experience, candidates actually can send actually start send have started sending their assignments to him. Now that highlights so well that you're actually serious about product management. That there was, let's say, an assignment which was posted on PM School or product management exercises, some place, right? And you took the effort of 1 week to solve that whole assignment case study, right? And you
Right.
can actually send that along with your resume. So that speaks a lot that hey, you thought about this idea, thought about the metrics, thought you actually took the effort to draw something on Balsamic or Figma and showed it to the HR or showed it to the hiring manager that hey, look, I know my chops, right?
So I can just take a live example. There was a candidate which did exactly this. He just went to our live classes feature. He analyzed it whole, made a whole case study on it, and he didn't know that we have a assignment based on it. But he did it on his own, and he just submitted it to our design lead, who really liked it, and we interviewed him. He he's still in the process, but it's a very good approach to not just. It's a very directed approach, right? You want to work in a company, and you're writing about, you're making a case study about that company. That company's person is of course going to be really interested in what's your thought and what's your take on it. Just you don't need to even talk about something that the company might be doing in the future. You can just analyze something that's already there, suggest ways to improve it, or something that we might be doing something else, or that a company might be doing some differently than their competitors. So
Mm-hmm.
it makes your approach to understanding a product a very good boost in terms of an recruiter's eye.
Correct. So Shikha has asked one question. This was also there in our slides as well. If we are making a transition from SDE to PM, how to apply for the jobs if we don't have an experience in it, but someone has done Udemy course or someone has done case study, right? Like it applies to SDE, it applies to business analyst, any role, right? We talk about.
So for SDs, it's actually they do have a an advantage over people who are directly coming to product from a non-tech background, maybe just doing a MBA and then getting into it. They have a strategic understanding of the product, the MBA people, right? Because they come from that background. But someone from tech background will have a very good understanding of estimates, understanding like, if I am going to ship this feature, how much time will that take? If, and you can make so many decisions, so many good decisions that way. So tech, this tech background is actually not a prerequisite, but when it is there, it's a very good thing to have, because a lot of the product managers don't have tech background, but they are very good at what they do. Uh, so once you understand what are the technical aspects of a product, it makes your life much more easier. Your conversations with the developers improve. Your connections with the developers improve. Instead of developers saying, "Hey, this feature you rolled out is going to take 3 months," you can actually say, "You don't need to use use it this way. You don't need to use the framework. You can just make a very small version of it and then roll it out for this 2 weeks, and then we can refine it. So there are ways that you can actually converse because you're coming from a tech background. So yes, you can enter from a tech background.
Correct.
It's an SD.
Archana has asked a very interesting question, and the question is, when you say side projects, what do you mean? So I'll just give my one 2 cent here. Archana, side projects could be anything. It could be a case study. It could be the case study you would have solved. It could be, these days a lot of folks are actually building their own apps using no code platforms, right? That shows that you are enterprising that, hey, I built an app using a no code platform. It could be your Dribble profile. It could be your Behance profile, right? Sukant, over to you.
Yes, so absolutely what Ankit said. A lot of these case studies are made very well. They analyze, they include screens, they include some of the thought processes behind what could be the reason why they, like Ola raised, rolled out a feature, or any product. So the case study then analyzes that and then gives their own understanding and suggestions to it. So it could be about a company. It could include screens. It could be purely textual also. But as long as your insight is really strong and it's really driven, it's really coming from a basic principles of why this should make sense in a product. But it's really important that you do side projects and case studies if you're not coming from a product background but are interested in it.
Correct. Now, this is one very interesting question which has been asked by Prateek, and you might want to answer this honestly, right? Do you consider applications who do not have a PM experience but have some product certifications from Upgrad or PM school or any other, schools which are there, alternative colleges which are there for education, right?
Sure. So I do uh, consider them, but it depends on the role also. So for a product manager role where we need experience, I might not consider him for that role. But for a product analyst role where you actually, that's the entry point of any company's product role, they will definitely consider this person, any person who has done maybe a nano degree from a grad, or maybe they have not done any certification, any course, nothing, but they are just a business analyst somewhere, but they do have a very good understanding of how product is and they want to transition to a product analyst is a very good entry point for them. Product analyst is also the first point of entry in Unacademy as well, where we interview them.
Prateek, without sounding biased, and I'll try to sound without bias as much as I can. In the next few weeks, you will hear about people who have got placed via PM school. Now, what do we do is the best performers of our cohort. Let's say if we are taking a cohort of 10, if like there are like good performers there, we do try to refer them, or we do try to talk to hiring managers and get them placed. Again, we are not guaranteeing placement as of now, but then if you are a good performer, right, we do try to connect you to the, let's say, the head of product or the TA leads, right? What else? Just give me a second.
Sure.
As an MBA student with no, I think you've already taken this. Let's talk about this, Sukant, how to speak about your past experience in an impactful manner. Common mistakes to avoid in a PM interview.
All right. So I'll take the mistakes first and then I'll come to the impact. So a lot of the mistakes that many people do who have done good work, they get into one side of the feature that they might have rolled out like 20 features, let's say. They get into one feature too deep. I actually don't want them to go so deep. Uh, they keep talking about it for, let's say, 20 minutes or 15 minutes, which is good. But you need to be aware that the time of your interview needs to be very impactful. So before you dive deep into it, ask the person whether they want to go deeper. You explain your work, explain some of your impactful, most important features that you have worked on, and then you ask them which of these features you sounds interesting to you that you want me to go deeper on. Keep asking questions. Do you want me to go deeper? Do you want me to go deeper? So that your communication is to the point. You're not taking more time, you're not taking less time also. You're not being too brief, where many people just say, I worked on internal products of this company and it was good. But that's not useful to me. I need to understand, like, what was the role, what was the product about, what was the use case, how big was the team, how did they interact with their team. All of these things are important for a recruiter to understand, at least from my point of view. So you need to be talking about, you need to avoid talking too much. Just keep checking where this is required. Now coming to the impact, again, as I said, keep checking so that your impact of the what you're saying is very directed towards what the recruiter wants to know, as well as uh, also avoid um, uh, without also avoid like lack of numbers in your thing. So what you have mentioned in your resume, you should mention again. You should reinforce that, especially the special impact that you had through your work. So do mention the, like, I increased organic traffic in this. I increased revenue by 20%. I made these feature changes which increased onboarding by 30%. I worked on internal products that improved the process from 6 days to 2 hours. All of these metrics are important. You should mention them in your resume and you should talk about them. And in the interview, you need to talk about how you brought out that change, that changes in the feature which improved the time from 6 days to 2 hours. So how what process improvements also you did. Yeah.
Correct. Correct. So Mayur has asked one question. He says, I have 3+ years of experience in product domain. What should one look for before choosing to switch the company?
What should one look for?
What should one look for before choosing to switch the company?
Totally depends on your experience and what kind of products that you worked on. What is your interest also?
Correct.
I think it's a very personal choice. Many people who might have been working in B2B for a long time, they might say, I've had enough of B2B. I want to work on B2C side.
Correct.
Uh, and then you start applying to those roles first instead of B2B. So it just depends on your taste and what you like. But yeah, I think that's pretty
Correct.
much the answer. It
Correct.
depends on your approach.
One,
Maybe you would like to answer it better than me.
I think it's the similar thing what you've said. Initially, Mayur had written manager under whom I'll work for. Not really. Company name, not really. Company name might be definitely. Let's say if there is a good product role in a company like Unacademy, and I'm interested in edtech, then definitely Unacademy becomes the dream company for me, right? So definitely a company name would be important for me. Not probably because Unacademy has already established itself as a good product company, and that's why I would want to be associated with those folks. I might know from my network that hey, Unacademy product people are really good. That's why I want to work with them. For me, again, it's a very personal choice, right? I
Yeah.
usually go for how's the product team there, what is the work culture. Everything else becomes secondary for me, right?
Right. I think the scale of the product is also very
Yes,
important. If you have,
exactly.
so maybe the company is known, but the product that they are going to hire for is actually it's not very useful or not very big with the users.
Correct.
Then it's not going to be useful for your career. If
Yeah.
you are going to Flipkart but into an internal product that a very small set of people are using, which doesn't interest you, you want to actually work with people with a product that uses like 10 million plus users, then Flipkart is the wrong choice for you
Correct.
uh, for that particular product.
Yep.
But even if like you're working in a small startup, like let's say Grow is a very good fintech startup, and you start working there for one of their B2C apps, it's going to be wonderful for you to work on such a scale startup.
Correct. I would say totally the candidate's choice, right? Uh,
Yeah,
Actually, companies also look for people who have had 0 to 1 experience, let's say, and that's a very startup-y sort of experience wherein you are actually owning a lot. But a lot of companies look for people who have, let's say, experience in, let's say, an established product, right? It totally depends on you, right? One question which I want to ask and which Mayur has asked is, and you might want to answer this, what are the websites you will recommend as sample resume templates for beginners? Is there like a website for sample resume template?
Behance, Dribble, they're all more design related. I think for product related, it's Behance is what I see as a template of like screens that some of the product screens that people. I think it's more of a
Correct.
design related. I think you can take that question.
Mayur, I would say if you're making a resume, make it one pager. As long as you are projecting the right numbers, right language, everything is fine. As you're communicating, as long as you're communicating your skill set properly, a template won't make a difference. I have seen different colored resumes also, but the guys were really good, and then I ended up hiring them. Right? They're not just like a plain black and white resume.
So one thing I'll just like to add. One of the people in the product community, I think Vidya, who is also in our
Yeah.
Slack, she made uh, a very good set of PRD templates of all the top companies: Airbnb, Facebook,
Google. Yeah.
Unacademy, other companies. So you should refer that as a very good reference point as well to just learn like what do good PRD look like, because at Facebook the PID start with just 2 lines at for many of the products, and then when they start working on it, it's expanded. But at many companies, it's a 2 pager or a 1 pager. It depends. So, but going through those templates will actually help your understanding improve.
Correct. This is one very specific question, and try to answer this. How do you move from a product marketing role in SaaS to a PM role in SaaS or a B2C company?
Correct. So, interesting question. What's your take on it?
Just give me a second. How do you move from a product marketing role? I think product marketing is a lot related to product management. Uh, I can speak from a B2C perspective. I would say if your experience is really valuable as a product marketing guy in a SaaS company, right? Now, how do you align it to the requirement, or how do you align it to the role which is there, right? I would say if I'm a PMM in a SaaS company, uh, it would be, let's say, slightly easier for me to move to a PM in the same company or a PM in a similar SaaS company, right? I know of a guy who's moving from a product marketing in Zozo Day to PM in Zeta, because both of them do the similar kind of work. He's
Yes.
currently in product marketing, so he knows what the PM does, and he's well aware of the tools, or let's say well aware of the product. And Zeta has, let's say, a similar offering, so it's
Right.
a natural progression for him.
Yes.
How do you move to B2C? For B2C, if you are in product marketing, you need to know, let's say, acquisition really well, retention really well, and B2C might be a different, I would say, sort of a different ball game. You want to take a shot at that? How do you move to from a product marketing to a B2C PM?
I think the requirement should match.
Yeah.
As you exactly said, people should know some retention metrics, some acquisition metrics, because you are coming from a marketing experience. It will really add value to a role in a B2C PM role where marketing is one of the metrics, is one of the requirements of the role as well. So it's a very specific example, but good that we discussed it.
Correct. Ankita has asked one question, and it's a very interesting question. How do you approach a product case study in a sector you have no idea about? Right. That's the beauty about case studies, that you never have an idea about the sector. So yeah, go ahead.
Uh, so you actually don't need to. So you reached a point in your career where okay, I can talk about myself. I've reached a point in my career where I can understand the approach for a particular industry, and I've seen many industries where the product approach varies a lot from company to company because they're targeted only a part of the industry. So if someone is sending uh, a case study on which is not like for around edtech, let's say, uh, it still easily can be judged well, because your approach to what's the problem you're solving, the problem you're going to define in the case study, and the problem you are talking about, how you are approaching it, how you're solving for it, it all becomes very clear. So again, coming back to my earlier point, your communication should be on point in your case studies. What you are talking about, why you are taking such certain assumptions. So many case studies start from assumptions. You take, like, if let's say Ola has some drivers, there are, if there are X drivers, I should have Y drivers, but there should be a reasoning why are you taking that Y number of drivers. It should not be arbitrary. It should have some reasoning behind it. It should have some data behind it as well. So all of these things, uh, they then matter. How you're communicating, how you're conveying your case study.
Uh, so Archana has asked, is there a template for a case study? Archana, you might want to go to the PM School page, and every week we post a weekend challenge, which is actually a new case study every week. And it has B2B as well as B2C examples. And every Sunday we put up the solution for the case study, which we put up. Best solution basically, which has been sent to us by folks like you. You might just want to check the questions and the solutions. You will get an idea of how to approach a case study. I think after you solve like one or two, you'll start getting a pattern that B2C में ऐसे होता है या B2B में ऐसे होता है, right?
Yeah.
Coders have GitHub to showcase their portfolio. Any similar platforms for PMs? Not really, right?
No, not really. It's all case studies so far.
The case study so far, and you can start start using the featured section of LinkedIn, start putting up your stuff there, start posting about product, start writing about product, right?
Can create a Medium blog for sharing your thoughts, or create a, like a small site of yourself. You can just start a, like a simple Google site, not even a complex thing, and just have that in your portfolio itself, where you're just included all your case studies.
Correct.
Becomes very this thing.
Hussein has asked, can you send the link for different PRDs of Vidya? Hussein, I'll send it to you later, right? And how will, so Mayur has asked, how will my role be different while applying as senior PM, since I'm currently working as a PM for Reputed tech giant? What skills must one be ready with before applying for it? That's a good question, I think.
Can you repeat that question?
Mayur has asked, how will my role be different while applying as a senior PM? Since I'm currently working as PM for a reputed tech giant, what skills must one be ready with before applying for it?
Got it. So as a senior PM, you need to have a very strong decision-making bias. You it becomes, there needs to be a decision maker for the product that you are covering. There you should take input from your team, but a decision making bias is what is very important, especially if you're coming from a tech giant where there are a lot of people there. There are a lot of, you might not have been, since, and you're coming from as a PM, you might not have been making a lot of the decisions. You might have been just executing them or implementing those features. But the decision making is very important when you're transitioning from. So this is one of the biggest traits that I will stress on, and then I will actually test in the interview that I take for them. Anything according to you, Ankit, that they should add?
So I think when you're a senior PM, you've already had experience of about 4 or 5 years as a PM, right? And if you are applying as a senior PM, be ready that there'll be product analysts who will be reporting to you. There'll be APMs reporting to you, and that's a different ball game. It's not product management. Then it's about leadership. It's about reviewing the spec. It's about very good at scrutinizing whatever, not scrutinizing, it's about very good at leading whatever, it's about leading your team. It's about managing up also. You should start learning how to manage up, manage your bosses, or how to present the vision documents or present the PRDs to the CEO. So especially in a startup, right, a senior PM, you might be leading a team of 4 or 5 PMs as well, right? Like, for example, the company I work at, Rummy Circle, senior PMs have 8 or 10 years of work experience. So that will also differ. If you apply to a senior PM in a startup, that might be a different role, whereas a senior PM in a very established company might be a different sort of a role. But then in any company you go to, senior PM, you might be asked to lead, and leading is a different skill set.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Just give me a second. How does one start into writing? Mohit, start observing things, start observing features which you see on any app, right? Start writing about it. I would see features on gaming apps, and then I would write it on my LinkedIn status that, hey, Dream 11 has released this very interesting features, and they might have A/B tested it, and this would have been the result. So it shows that, hey, I thought about it, right? PureFit, let's say, keeps launching a lot of features, might want to just, again, any app which you like, and just talk about it. Write a Medium post about it, write anything about it. So one question from the slides which we had prepared, right? And what is the appropriate tenure for a PM before switching to another without raising any red flags to the recruiter? It's an interesting.
So uh, it's a tough one. You need to have it's not the general reason where people say that you need to have a solid reason for leaving a company, but for a product manager it becomes important because you need to have had worked on the product long enough to have seen its growth from one point to another. Maybe an year might not be enough, maybe a year might be too much for a growth based product. So it really depends on where you're working, what kind of product you're working on. uh, I'll say like I am fine with people 1 year experience and they are changing in 1 year or 2 years. But it really depends on why you left the company. Like what was the reason? Like there sometimes many companies have a lot of red tape around the decision making of the product managers, right? They want to implement a certain design or a certain feature, and the management or the leaders in the company or the engineering leaders, they might just say no, that this is just not possible for us, or this is not our priority right now, even though the product manager knows that this is very important. So then that person might think, hey, this is not the right place for me anymore because I can't take the calls that I need to take on, right? So then that makes sense for a product manager to move on. It might be in 6 months, might be in 8 months, whatever. But 6 months is something that I will at least give. 6 to 9 months is something I'll at least give a person to give a proper shot at, to uh, even give time to convince people in your stakeholders, because for a product manager convincing is important. You need to have exhausted all your convincing power with the stakeholders you have, with your bosses, with your devs, with your QA people, that this is what I want, and if you still can't convince it, then that's a different ball game. But uh, so tenure wise it just varies, but you need to have had, ideally they should have spent good amount of time in the product that they are working on.
Correct. She is saying, so if I take up a project case study about any random company's product I choose, let's say Unacademy, can I upload it on LinkedIn? Sure.
Sure, yeah.
Go ahead. If you see any good features which are being launched by Unacademy, you want to do a critique of it, yeah, do upload it on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah,
What do you do when hiring engineering
don't
graduates?
ask for permission.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah,
a free platform, and yeah, right. What do you do when hiring engineering graduates, freshers who do not have any product experience as of
correct. All right. So uh, ideally it's very difficult, and I'm not sure how companies what's the you can only actually hire engineering graduates or product roles only based on analytical ability, uh, or some case studies again they might have done in their college. Uh, but product management is something, a role, a very specific role where it needs some sort of experience in having worked on a product. So whether you have worked on it from a business analyst point of view, whether you have grown it uh, through a marketer's point of view, whether you have developed it from a programmer's point of view, you need to have had some experience on it. You would have done a small startup or a site in your college, which would have given you experience around developing or growing the product. So then that becomes valuable for a fresher to be considered for a product role. But ideally it's very difficult for a fresher to crack a product role. It needs some sort of experience there.
now? Sandeep has asked, how does one judge the different product role openings and choose the best, especially when one is changing their career?
Got it. So a product, it matters. The role is, so it starts from product analyst, then APM, then product manager, then senior PM, then VP. So you need to analyze how each level speaks to you. Whether you are right now a product analyst and you still don't feel strong enough, you are fine with moving to a product analyst role, or you have done too much and you directly want to jump to a product manager role, you can still do all of that. But you need to understand each role, and you need to understand that role in that specific company. As Ankit said before, at certain big companies, PM role may require like 8 years of experience. But in many companies, it's sort of a starting role even. Uh, and many companies will just have like 1 year. At Unacademy, it's like 3 years for us. For product analysts, we can hire like interns who have done product management. Um, and for APMs, we are fine with 1 year to 3 years of experience. But for product manager, for us, it needs 3 years and more. So it varies according to the level you are targeting and the company that you are targeting. The size matters in the company of the role.
Right. Sukant, you might just want to speak a bit loudly. I'll move on to
Oh, okay.
I'll move on to the next question. It's by
Sure.
Arsh. Do you suggest we connect with PMs on LinkedIn? Definitely connect with product managers, connect with the senior PMs, whoever you want to, relevant to product, and send them our projects case studies for feedback. For sure, ask them politely that, hey, I am looking out for mentorship, or I am looking out for guidance on how to transition into PM. I think out of 10, maybe one or two might reply, two or three might reply, and then discuss, set up a Zoom call with them. I have done that, and that's why I'm saying I reach out for mentorship for myself, right? I reach out to senior folks and I discuss with them that, hey, I need some feedback or I need some guidance. Feel free to do that, right? People are doing that. If you're not doing that already, start doing that, right? In fact, we also did a organized mentorship cohort, and that's doing pretty well. And senior PMs, people already in the industry, they are more than willing to give back to the community. How important is writing style, grammar, etc. Mohit, if you're communicating your point well, right, grammar, writing style, everything is good. But as long as you're communicating the point well or the critique well in your article, it will be fine. Again, share as much as possible, get feedback on your writing style also, right? The reason is, when you join as a PM, you will have to write very long, or not very long, but you'll have to write like good PRDs, and you have to be good at communication, right?
Writing skills is important for
Yes.
product managers.
Yes, yes. Nasir has asked, how much does internship related to PM is important if someone wants to break into product? So I am assuming that he's in his 4th year or 5th year of college and will be graduating, right, as an engineer. And how much will his internship help him in getting a PM role, or let's say breaking into product management?
Internships are good. They can definitely help you in bagging a product analyst or a APM role to start your career in. Uh, it does matter how much were you involved in the product management, because many companies do just they just give product associate tasks to interns, where you're just talking to users, getting feedback from them, which is again important. But then I don't think it directly translates to a proper product management task or work. So you need to have had worked on maybe one feature where you did research on them. You have proper numbers set in your, you have it in your head, where you can just rip off anything that you want. So uh, a depth in understanding, even maybe you didn't do a lot of product management work there, but you understood the product very well. So even that is a big plus, where you may not have worked on some features of the product, but you know everything about it, and you can talk in detail about how this was done, so even that is a very good point to be considered, whether it shows that maybe you didn't work on it, but you still have a very good understanding of the product, why this was important, and what made the most impact of that product,
Correct.
of that company's product.
Why do most companies treat product managers as project managers? I'll just take a shot at this for the first 15 seconds and then I'll give it to you. So Mohit, so what happens is a lot of companies in India are still growing or are startups, right? But then you will see a lot of companies which are very established. Now, in an established company, you have a product manager and then you have a project manager who becomes like a scrum master, right? Like in the company I work at, Rummy Circle, or there we have a scrum master or a project manager. I do not have to do the project work there. But in an early stage companies, high growth phase companies, you might not have a project manager, and that's why you'll have to own the project part also, right? You will have more ownership there, more responsibility there. Sukant.
Yeah, I mean, you answered it very nicely because uh, there are some companies who give you just the agile and the scrum work, and you're just doing project work, project management work, but not actually working on the product itself. Uh, so you need to be mindful of that as well. If you are going into a role where it says product manager, but you're going to do work only of a project manager, need to be careful because there is a lot of mix up in the industry. Uh, there are many roles that are misrepresented and mislabeled. So before taking just the title, you need to understand what that role will do for you, what that role will give for you for your future growth in product. If you're interested in a product role.
Correct. I would highly recommend if you can sort of get a sense of how the culture of the product team is from, let's say, your friends working there or from a dev guy or from someone, you will get to know everything about the product culture, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the difference between product? So RC has again asked a question. What's the actual difference between product management and project management? Yeah, Sukant.
Uh, so again, uh, project management, you're just doing it's more like it's just managing that how a product is being developed, but you're not actually working on the product itself. You're into people management, you're into process management, you're ensuring calls are happening on time, you're ensuring people are there on time, you are removing blockages from product management. All of these things are also part of a product manager. Okay, stakeholder management, removing blockages from your QA team, from your developer team, right? But it is not just this. Your work requires you to work on the design side, on the feature side. You need to have done research on the people, on the users, on the products that you are making. All of them, this becomes product management. Without this core work, all of these extra things that make a good product manager, a product manager, it becomes a project manager role. It's not a product manager role anymore then. So you need to be careful whether the core of these responsibilities are there in the role that you are applying for.
Correct. Just one quick question: is Unacademy hiring right now?
Yes, we are.
Okay, fine. Again, Sai asks, this is a general HR question. How do you explain a break in the resume? Let's say I'm assuming he's referring to if you've taken a break for 6 months, 1 year. How do you explain that?
Got it. So anyone who would have seen my LinkedIn, they would have seen that I have also taken breaks, uh, and it's completely fine. You need to explain it. What were you doing in that break? It's completely fine. People take breaks, they get burnouts. It's fine, but you need to explain why you took that break, why it made sense for you, what what did you get out of the break, and how well did you use that break. Whether you were just maybe for the first month you were just relaxing and just chilling out, just letting yourself get back your, maybe you're improving your health, right? Many people take health breaks, for example. Uh, but in tech world, whether it's a developer, whether it's a product manager, a break is, it can be a negative in terms of, you can, since tech is moving at a very rapid pace, you can lose track of how far, or how far the things have progressed during that break. Maybe it could be 3 months, it could be 6 months. So in maybe in 3 months, 6 months also, there might be new tools which you need to be aware of. So use that break to work on and to keep your knowledge up to date. What's happening in the, keep engaging with people in the community of whichever role you are working at, whether it's a developer, whether it's a product manager, whether it's anything. So you need to be engaged in the community. You need to keep yourself updated of what's happening in your roles, and you need to have a pulse on the industry, in which direction is it growing, is it going. And then whenever you're applying to a company, then you talk about how that break was useful to you, and what usefulness did you bring out of that break as well. So again, it's like talking about the impact that you have in the interview.
Correct. Ashish S. Nair asks, and that's a very good question and a very relevant one. Do you think internal transitions via internal job posting is a good way to get into PM for a non-PM folk?
Absolutely, it's a very good. I highly encourage this because you already have a very good understanding of the company's product. It's a very natural transition. You need to just show the internal stakeholders, maybe the senior PM of that company, of your company, where that you do have the, not just the mind for it, but the interest for it as well. Because it's not such a glamorous job that people make out to be. It's a very hard job, and you need to have a very good, you need to have a certain set of skills for it. Uh, but it's a very deeply satisfying job as well. So you need to understand why you want to become a PM. It should not be just, hey, PM job is cool, I want to go for it. It should not be just that. You need to have a good understanding of what it requires inside the company, and your understanding of the company's product is, of course, going to be a big boost uh, to your chances moving internally as well.
Correct. So I just like to take a shot at that. That's the best way to become a product manager. It's the most organic one, right? You have worked with the PM team for, let's say, if you're a developer or a product marketing manager or a UX person,
Yeah.
you are you are basically hanging out with the PM team every day, right? And you are at a very good, let's say, advantage to keep discussing with them, start providing your inputs to the PM team, right? Start hanging out with them, or let's say start giving them critiques on their product, right? They might see value. They will definitely see value in your opinions, right? And if whenever there's an internal job posting, they might actually just take you in the product team. And so many people move from being a product analyst to PM, being a developer to PM, being a UX to PM, right? How does PM work with a bad boss, right? I think you start to learn what your boss is expecting, right? What is the definition of a bad boss is, Mohit, I would like to know. And the idea is you need to be really good at managing up. PM is not it's not the easiest job out there, right? You need to be very good at managing humans, right? You need, I would say that you like, if you are a people's person and if you're great at, let's say, UX, UI, and tech analytics, you will make a good PM. Again, if you're good at the hard skills, basically, you'll make a good PM. But then if you are good at managing up or managing stakeholders or managing your subordinates, you will definitely make a good PM. I mean, a great
An
PM.
effective PM, I'd say.
Effective PM. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
You need to be really good at managing people, managing expectation. You need to command the respect of people around you. You can never demand the respect. यार मेरी respect करो कि मैं PM हूँ. You
yes.
need to be very convincing. You need to always have like your whatever you're saying hypotheses backed by data. Then no one will be able to say anything to you.
Yes.
What are some must-have? What are some must-have skills for entry-level product roles that a recruiter look for? That's a good question by Divyansh.
Uh, Entry level product skills.
What are some must-have skills for entry-level product roles? Let's say for an APM, what are a must-have skills which the recruiters are looking for?
For me, I you just need a proper problem solving approach to that's what we test here for Unacademy, for APMs that we were hiring for until recently. We were not looking at whether they have come from a good college. We were seeing whether they come from a good internet company, speaks, which ties in well with how Unacademy has been doing. But even then, we were not really restricting ourselves to it. we were mostly looking at how well they have structured their resume, how well they have communicated their resume, and then when I'm speaking to them, so resume becomes the first part. Your structuring of resume is the first skill that a recruiter is going to see. So your resume should be top, uh, should be very crisp, very to the point. It should not be very descriptive. It's like one lines, and each line should have a meaning to it. It should not be just like I did this, I did this, I did this. Should have impact to it. And then when I'm impressed by the resume, and then when I'm speaking to you, then there might be some recruiters might discuss a simple problem statement where you need to bring out your product oriented approach to thinking, to problem solving, uh, and that's what we check in our tech interviews as well, especially for APM interviews. We are looking at how well they work with people also, whether they are just here for the title or whether they actually want to, whether they're actually interested in the product as well, how well they have researched the product as well. So your resume is formatting, your problem solving approach using a product oriented thinking, then you talk about how well you know the company's product that you're interviewing for. So you need to have you need to ask questions around that company's product as well. So just inquisitiveness around the company.
Uh, Sukant, can we extend this to 8:10?
Yeah, yeah. I'm completely fine with it. I'm having fun.
Oh, nice. So Archana here, she asks a very good question. So a lot of people I see also face the same problem. Having worked for 4 years in consulting, or let's say in any job, and with a decent package, now she wants to transition to product analyst or PM role. Should she compromise on salary? Is one question. I see a lot of, like, even in PM school we have one guy who's like earning like a good CTC 25 and above, and he's very bent on moving into product, but then he's already at an age where, let's say, he's 31, and he wants to move to product, but then no company might take him at an entry level because of his salary, right?
Fine. So, so you need to understand. I know money is important, but you need to understand the that when you're moving from a consulting role to a product role, uh, because of your consulting experience, you might be very good at strategy, right? You might be very good at creating a roadmap of of the product. But there are a lot more things that are required in a product role, which you might not know at that point of time. Uh, so it all depends on the interview, how well you impress the person, and if the company wants to keep you at the same package, great. But more often than not, because it's a transition of product, it's a transition of role, it's untested. We don't really have the company doesn't have a solid background on the person. It depends on the company's purchasing power also. So if you're applying in a small company, they might not be able to offer you a lot. And if you're working if you're applying at a scale company, they might be able to pick you up at the same package that you have right now. It depends on the company again, of the package. But I will speak from my personal experience when I was a developer and I switched to an analytics role, which I was really interested in before getting into HR and talent acquisition. I took a pay cut and I did it very willingly. I went from Cognizant, which is not a paymaster, right? And then when I went to a startup, an edtech startup in Delhi, I took a pay cut because I wanted to get into it, and I grew so much in that 1 year that I spent there. I worked with a lot of good people there, and that has given me such a data driven approach to everything I'm doing, even in HR, even in talent acquisition as well. So you need to know, you need to have your priorities straight. What do you want?
Correct.
uh, and it should also be not that I just want product, I don't care about money. The money will impact you, so you need to have a minimum figure below which you will not go.
Correct.
So even if, let's say you are earning, let's say I'll just take an example, you're earning 30 lakhs in your consulting role, and 18 or 20 something that will still work for you, then go for it, is what I will say. But and if you are still getting a good role on it as well, product manager, and a good product as well, that in the long run this will pay off. So you need to, it shouldn't be like from 30 you're coming down to 12, which should
Yeah,
not make sense for you. So it totally depends on your priorities, and you need to have your priorities straight. Otherwise, you're going to get uh, you're going to get very dissatisfied with your job. It will impact your work, and people will then say that, hey, actually we were just proved right that you were not made out for product management, and you just came here for some dream that you. So you need to work, and you need to have a priority straight, that what's the role I want, and how much am I ready to compromise on.
correct. Subhash has asked one question. Does having an MBA degree create a better opportunity to land a PM role? Not really, right? Sukant?
No, 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 not at all. I mean, I wouldn't say not at all. It does give you a good understanding of the business. It gives you a business oriented approach instead of so many people get into product, they're working on features that we are going to make this the best possible product at all, but then they don't research market fit, they don't understand the business of the product that the product is in. Making a feature should be business driven also. It should not be just because maybe Craig did it well or Unacademy did it well. It should have here as well. So there should be a solid business reasoning behind each feature that is there, that is important to the user, it's required by the user, it's very heavily requested, which is why I'm making, and this is the business impact of that feature, not just in terms of users but the traffic or the engagement of it. So understanding business is also very important, and you do get a lot of it in your MBA. So people who are coming from an MBA background will do well, according to me, in a product role, because they understand the business. They can they might be good in strategy as well, but then you need to learn other aspects of it as well.
Correct. Also, I would, again, as I said in the beginning of this talk as well, go to target B schools where actually product companies come to hire. Only then, if you, I mean, then it would make sense to do an MBA for a product role.
Right.
Like I know my friends or my ex-colleagues or my batchmates from engineering college, they went to ISB because they knew that booking.com or a Google or a Flipkart might, they will come there to hire, right? And that's how they got into product management, right? Pratik has asked, can we send our resume along with our projects to Sukant?
Sorry.
Can we
The
send a resume?
projects to Sukant? Sure, sure.
Uh,
Just reach out to me on LinkedIn, send
yeah,
it to me. Uh, I might not reply the very same day, but I would love to review them and give my input on how I see them.
in general, do we send random connection requests to PMs and send in our work? Not really. You send a request. If he or she accepts, you send a polite message that, hey, I'm looking to transition to product manager. I'm looking for some guidance. And if then he or she agrees, then send your work and then get it reviewed like properly, right? You are basically
Even save time when you're sending the connection request. Add the note there.
add a
And
note.
LinkedIn has increased the limit from 150 characters to 300 characters. Now you can still write a lot, and you can still write why you're reaching out. Do mention it. People are helpful. Many people are helpful, especially in product community, because it's not as mature as other countries, as India. So in India, I mean, it's not as mature as outside. So people are being very helpful in the community. So
Correct.
just be very direct. Don't try to say, hey, hi, how are you? Don't be there. Save their time. When you're reaching out, include the message, why you're reaching out, and then just be straight to the point, whether you can help me or not, and this is what I need help on. That's it. And then whether how people respond is then up to them.
Mayur, I understand your question, but I think it might not be very relevant to this talk because it talks about A/B testing at an academy. For that, I think a PM might be a better person to answer that question, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
So just like as an aside, small thing to this, we do have a specific experiments and A/B testing team at an academy which does all of this.
Correct,
It's led by our traction lead.
correct. Ashita, if you can just write your question in one line, that would be easier to actually ask. Uh, can you suggest a book on stakeholders management or in general people management? Any sort of material?
I think you are much more equipped to answer
Correct.
that.
So there's this book, HBR Guide to Managing Up and Across. You can look it up on Amazon. Then there's this book of Managing Up by Mary Abaje. I mean, if you might want to read either of these, but again, I would say it will come with practice, right? Stakeholder management will come with practice. You might want to read up on any material which you want, but it will come with practice. How are case studies, and this has been asked by Atul Dorje, and I hope I'm pronouncing the name correct. Hey, Ankit and Sukant, how are case studies / decks / PPTs, which might be very different from the same problem statement, depending upon the assumption and logic, be evaluated while recruiting for PMs? There is one problem.
How do you do it at PM school for these?
We look at one part is we look at like good innovative product ideas. If let's say if there was a question on if you want to do something for cure fit, right? Again, going back to our discussion, right? It's the same thing. If someone's coming up with an ops based solution or something like that, which is not a product idea, then we straight away we are like, no, this is not a good solution, right?
Right.
And then we come to the people, then we discuss about product ideas. Now we look at how clearly someone has decided, what should I say, thought of the product idea, or has thought about the user's problem, and then wrote down the features or then wrote down the solutions. How innovative are the solutions, right? Like someone might just come up with that, say that, hey, I want to, let's say, do a push notification, but then someone might come up and say that, hey, I want to do gamification or a leaderboard. Now that immediately sounds interesting, right? If someone's coming with an innovative idea. Secondly, we also look at how detailed are your metrics. In any case study, how detailed are you able to define the KPIs or the metrics? There are certain metrics which we look at in product management, right? And if you are writing them in a case study, how relevant are those metrics to that case study which you solved? That's how we look at it. Again, slightly subjective, but then that's the way we do it right now.
Correct. Yeah.
Do you want to take a shot, or should I move on to the next question?
No, we can move on. I think you answered it.
Yeah,
I'm ill-equipped to answer that question. Actually, it's a proper product question.
correct. How difficult is it to switch industries in product from banking to an edtech / gaming company?
It's not really. Depends on the company how well they are taking it. At Unacademy, we are not restricted to. It depends from company to company. At Unacademy, we're not restricted by whether those banking people are fitting into an edtech. It's all about what's the impact at the banking product also, the tech or the fintech product that you might have worked on. Totally depends.
Correct.
So, like for just as an example, in the APM role, we did interview many people from Paytm, from Kotak, even. Uh, Completely depends. They were good people, so which we interviewed.
Correct. So Ashish has asked, any tips on how to approach assignment case studies? Ashish, go to PM School's LinkedIn page. You will find a lot of examples there of great solutions, right? How it should look like exactly. Go there. I think a good way to submit your case studies would always be a PDF. Whenever you are drawing a wireframe, try to draw it on Balsamic or Figma, because it looks good. It shows that you know the tool, right? You might also want to give it a pen and paper sort of solution, but then I would prefer seeing a Balsamic or a Figma sort of a thing. And I would also, if you're submitting a case study or an assignment, I would also want to see, let's say, the metrics or the KPIs for the solution or for the feature which you have thought about, right? It should not just be that, hey, I thought about this feature, this is how it looks, but then how detailed is it? Did you think about the user persona? Did you think about the problems? Did you then think about the solution? Did you then actually took the effort of installing Balsamic and doing the whole wireframe? And then did you write down the KPIs, right?
Right.
Uh, I think we can take last two questions and then I think we'll be good for today. Do companies hire for APM product analyst off campus only uh, for immediate joining, or can the candidate join after graduating?
After graduation, of course, how will you how will you work in your uh, like nobody wants you to take away from your education. You need to complete your education and then you can join if the companies are hiring for them.
Correct. Let's take one last question, Sukant. This is from Abhishek. Can change management professionals become good PM? I'm not sure about the question, but especially considering they come with strong stakeholder management, this is the question.
So what I understand
Yeah,
of change management agents is they are more into overhauling process changes in an organization. They are very important to an organization's development as well in terms of its processes, in terms of its people processes as well. Uh, they might be very good at stakeholder management. They might be very good at managing people also around them. Uh, but their product experience might be non-existent, right? Uh, so they might be very good at process related part of the product manager's responsibilities, but you they still need to have a product oriented uh, approach to it. And when I say a product oriented approach, a lot of people mix it with an operational point of view, right? Many people who come from let's say business analyst or a process based role like a project manager, they solve problems from an operational point of view. So if you're going to bring in traffic to a particular product, then it shouldn't be through getting like celebrities onto your app. That's not in your hands. That's not in the hands of a product manager. That's going to be in the hands of the marketing person or someone else in the ops team. But a products person needs to handle changes in the product itself, features side or design side, which impacts the traffic instead of getting it through a celebrity involvement. That's purely operational side, which is not in your hands. So you need to be careful on how you are answering such questions in the interviews as well.
correct. Just one last one. In this, and this is, I think we got from the people when we had rolled out the registration form. In this COVID world, the competition is 5x. Unacademy's APM post got 8,000 plus application. How to prove yourself in this situation?
Yeah, that was just crazy. We we went through so many, and we contacted so many of them. It was still just madness the amount of applications we got. Uh, many of those people then sent me in-mail as well through LinkedIn, and that's something I actually wanted to talk about in this session. Uh, you need to make very good, so to stand out, right? They had already applied, but there were just so many. It took us days to, let's say, come to reach to the 8,000th or the 7,000th applicant, right? Just imagine like you're taking 30 seconds to view each person's resume, or at least 10 seconds to see what their experience is, whether it seems relevant, and then you're moving on. So just multiply it by 8,000. It's just going to take days and weeks and weeks. So uh, you need to understand when you're sending an email, and I'm going to definitely read it and respond to it. How is it when you create an email? It creates a very basic template. Many people just send that. Don't do that. Don't send an email template where you are saying that I'm a student at this VTU, and I want to apply for this that I saw. Don't use the template. Actually be useful. Actually your message should be highly targeted on why you think that you are good for the role, uh, and it should mention the mention not just your interest but where you fit in that team as well. What's your research about the product? Why do you want to join right away, or what is your thought process behind it? Need to mention all of this. It can't be a very generic mail. In-mail is a paid feature. Make use of a paid feature. Don't let it be a simple template message. You should be, you get I think only 6 or 10 of them per month in the LinkedIn premium paid feature. You must make good use of it. You can't just be sending template messages. So when you're standing out, you either send template messages, or when you're, if you're sending me as, let's say, connection request, include a message, which many people still do, why they want to reach out, what are they expecting of me as well.
Cool. Think. Uh, I think so. RC has asked one question. You want to take it quickly and then.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. How long is too long for cold emails? Like the length of the mail.
Oh, don't depend on one mail. Do a drip campaign. Don't have like a set of 3 mails, 4 mails. Do a complete drip campaign, and they also go out after certain periods. So first mail goes out, then the second mail goes out after 4 days, let's say, and then the third mail goes out after 3 days. And you can sort it out according to how well you want the response, or how long are you willing to wait. 1 week or 2 weeks is more than enough. Shouldn't last, and it should end up with a breakup mail where you just say, hey, I've just waited too long. And many people will actually respond to the breakup mail thinking that, oh, I'm this usually works in pre-sales and cold mails or leads, business leads, where many companies actually respond, hey, actually don't get angry on me and it's fine. So have research more on drip campaigns. You can make very effective mails. Don't write long. It's a different topic, but yeah, works.
Abhishek Rai says that's a wow, nice approach. So that's great. So thanks a lot.
Okay, I also wanted to say two things. I think Vidya's, many people were searching for Vidya. You can actually follow her on Twitter. I think Vidya Talks is her handle. And two people that I actually personally follow to keep myself updated on what makes a good PM is following Debbie Levitt. She is a very good UI and UX and product designer and product manager of 20 plus years of experience. She regularly does LinkedIn live events. Uh, okay, I'll just type it. Debbie Levitt. Okay, so she does regular LinkedIn lives almost every 2 days, and on every Thursday she does a ask me anything about a lot of people, and she usually interviewing someone with herself as well, and she is regularly taking questions. So you should definitely learn from people in the industry who are being so helpful, right? You need to be reaching out to those people. You need to chase them. You need to learn from them, because there's not a lot of help readily available as hers. So that then certain medium blogs I follow. Then for design, I follow Pablo Stanley's designs. He recently made a whole design tool that automates the whole design. I forgot its tool's name, but they just launched it like this at the start of this week. Uh, yeah, that's pretty much. So just start following, like try people who are helpful in the industry, follow them, see what's out there, what's possible, what are the people who you can learn from. Send them messages. They might not respond immediately to one person. Just reach out to 10 people. Out of those 10 people, if even 3 people respond and say, I'm ready to help you, that's all the help you need. Don't need to get help from 10 people.
Correct. Correct. So Abhishek is asking, please type design guy's name.
Okay. It's Pablo Stanley. He has a very entertaining medium blog on design. I personally love it a lot. And then he has come up with his own company now. So
Hmm.
good.
I think we are good now. Thank you so much, Sukant. I hope you had fun.
I had a lot of fun. I
Yes,
actually can extend, but it's fine. We can do it again.
we can do it again, like once a month or once in 2 months. Yeah, yeah. And
Sure.
I hope you guys like the AMA, right? And what you guys, if you guys like the AMA, please do talk about it on LinkedIn. Please do tag Sukant. Please do tag PM School, right? We will try to keep having more AMA sessions or more skill-based webinars, right, for all of you. Yeah, do spread the word about the webinars. And thank you so much. In case you have any further doubt, any further questions, feel free to add me and Sukant, right? If and and then we can probably discuss further.
Sure.
All right, thank you so much,
Okay.
guys. We might not have been able to answer
All of them.
Pablo Stanley was the name of the guy. Sorry, if we might not have been able to answer all the other all questions. Sorry for that. We'll try to uncover them again in the next session. Thank you so much,
Sure.
guys. Have a nice
Thank you,
week.
everyone. Take care.
Thank
Have
you.
a great
Bye.
weekend.